Welcome to the CoachSpeak Podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, welcome back to CoachSpeak, episode 24, here with a special guest, Coach Alex Harrell, and we had a really great night planned for you. But before we get going, we'd like to shout out to our sponsor, Tsunami Bar Sports and Team Builder.
Hey guys, welcome back to the pod, man. We're excited to have Coach on today. We're really getting into a lot of the offensive stuff that Coach brings. Coach Harrell has been in 4 different states. He's coached from 2A to 6A ball. I think even last year he talked about running 180 different formations. So we're really interested in getting into that and also with this game planning and stuff. But Coach, man, it's awesome to have you on.
Fellas, I appreciate you having me on. Fired up.
Hey, man, let's get into it. All right, so first, Coach, let's just start with your journey, man. So 11 years, 4 states, every level from 2A to 6A. Walk us through your coaching path and how those experiences shaped you as a coach today.
Yeah, so I had the best job in the world coming out of high school, just being a backup college quarterback. You know, didn't get hit and got to learn as much ball as I wanted and kind of figured out I wanted to get into coaching. And I'm from here in Missouri and started here and kind of climbed the ladder a little bit at some spots and wanted to take my first coordinating job. And it wasn't really going to happen here. So my wife and I flew out to Charleston, fell in love, and then the rest was kind of history. And we took a job out there, enjoyed it, learned a lot, and then COVID hit. So kind of started working our way back to Missouri here, went through Tennessee, met a lot of great people down there, got back to St. Louis, and then I actually took a year off. My wife and I had a son, really wanted to dive in and just be 100% dad, and wasn't quite sure how to navigate that being a coach. So took a year off, and then my best friend finally bugged me enough to come work for him, and we've been here for 3 years now, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So.
Man, kids can change a lot, man. I remember when my wife was pregnant with our daughter, her first kid, I was coaching baseball and football. And man, I remember talking to the AD saying, I can't do baseball anymore. Like it was one of those, like I knew it was, a year-round process. I wanted to be a dad. That was hard for me because I was a baseball guy. I played baseball in college. I thought I was going to be a baseball coach, and I chose one. I chose football. I think that was the right move. But it's definitely a hard decision when you have kids, man. But man, it's great to have you. What do you think influenced you the most as a coach today? Is it different states? Is it different levels of ball? But what do you think really led to, who you are today as a coach?
Probably cliche to say, man, but kids are kids. They are everywhere. I think the biggest thing is I look back at your bigger schools, and this is not a knock on smaller school guys. There are some phenomenal coaches out there coaching small school ball, but at the bigger level, it tends to be a little bit more scheme driven. You've got a little bit deeper of a depth chart. Sometimes you have a 3 deep and maybe even a 4 deep. And when you're at those smaller schools, it really is way more Jimmy's and Joe's focused. And it's not to say you're not going to see that at bigger schools, but it's kind of hard to have all these great plans when your quarterback also plays safety and kicks and punts and holds, and you don't get to talk to him. And then you're on a Friday night at a big school where, you've got guys playing one way only, kids only playing special teams. So kind of learning the player management aspect of the smaller school ball and trying to fit that into more of like the schematic approach of the big schools is kind of where I'm at right now.
Do you think that was a big transition? I coached at a 1A school kind of coming up, and then went to 3A, and then went to South Carolina 4A, and now we're at 5A. Do you feel like that's been a big transition, like as far as like a learning growth piece, or is that kind of natural for you?
I'd say it's natural. I think the biggest thing is it's probably easier to climb up than it is to fall down. You're used to having 45 kids at practice, and all of a sudden you've got 65 on just offense. So your mindset of efficiency has to change entirely when you've got 3 sets of 15-minute indie as opposed to 1 10-minute set, and then the flip side is when you're going down, all of a sudden now you're sharing athletes. So you can't be selfish. And that does dictate a little bit of, you want to be a tempo guy, you want to be an air raid guy, because it might be great until, you got a DC who's like, dude, you were on the field for 10 seconds. So.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it's easier to climb up. I would say we've talked about it before. Coaching from the inside out seems to be a little bit better, and it's also starting at a lower level and going higher is better, in my opinion. And there's all kind of different ways you can do it. But I grew up at a really big 2A high school, So I knew how we did things there. And then first coaching job was at York, a big, I think 4A high school at the time. And it's just completely different worlds. And like you said, it was scheme driven. I'd seen some of the best football I've ever been around coming out as a coach. But I think it's important. Don't get stuck at one level. At some point in your career, try a different level out just to kind of see how thankful you are for this. But, I really like this part of this level. So I think that's a big part.
And Dustin, I think you're right. I think, going from York 4A ball and then going to Cannon, which is basically like 2A ball or 1A ball numbers wise, it definitely is a big difference because now your problem solving is different. Like you got your 2 platoon at York, you maybe have 1 or 2 crossover guys, and then now you're in there like, well, now the question is how many guys we're going to cross over? We got 36 kids on varsity. It's like, well, what do we do there? And I think it's harder to go back down from that mindset to retrain your thinking versus the other way around. But that makes a lot of sense.
36 kids with 9 freshmen who will never see the field the entire night.
That's wild.
And then, we're at Rock Hill now, 5A. And so I just came from Cannon, which is a 1A, 2A school. And it's like, I'm thinking like, man, we got to make sure we get this done and this done. I'm like, oh, wait, like we have coaches for that. Like this coach did this coach is doing this. I'm like, oh, this is great again. But
heck yeah.
So Coach, being a backup quarterback or a quarterback in general, I mean, I think you're right. I think that's one of the benefits of learning. What, I guess being an OC, talk a little bit about your philosophy about like, all your experiences, what led you to, I guess what's known as the BearRaid, and what you're doing now?
Well, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there first. Our head coach's name is Matt Perkins. He's one of my best friends in the world. And Matt actually built this offense. So before I had gotten to Matt, I was running, 11 personnel, a lot of speed, a lot of tempo, and trying to have fun. Well, kind of the caveat to me coming to calling the offense was, hey, it's kind of like when Kiffin got hired, like we have an offense in place and you can call it. And I was a little hesitant because, am I going to have the ability to change what I want? Like, am I just going to be, So Matt built this and made it super user friendly. And the biggest thing that I wanted to do really when I've done every offense I've called is make it as user friendly as I can for the quarterback and for the offensive line. Using things like the R4 where you're able to simplify progressions and use a common language is huge for a staff and a quarterback. And then making sure that you're trying to limit yet make sure all the calls are super efficient for the O-line is really the goal of everything we do. So I love what we do. I think it's as good as it gets. I think we could get better, but as far as what we have, we seem to have a little bit of everything. And we're really kind of into year 4 where things are really clicking and it's a lot of fun right now.
Do you guys have like a menu that you guys pull from each year, and how do you adapt your offense to that? Like, I feel like for us, we have a menu, and then that may change each year based on our personnel. Is that something that you guys are kind of work through, or explain that to us?
So yes and no. We've got some things that we're going to do. So a lot of people will say buck sweep. We call it double G because we're only going to pull the guards. It's up to us to formation it correctly, but we're not going to make a UU, me call, or a pin call. It's going to be guards, but we're going to run double G. We're going to run power. We're going to run mesh out of empty. We're going to run deep choice. But to me, it's the malleability of what you have at certain positions. The last 2 years, we've thrown for 6,000 yards and something like 81 touchdowns, I think. Well, we've had a Division I quarterback. We're really, really solid when we have the kid that we have coming up where we're probably going to run for about 29. We're going to throw for about 23, and we're going to be more quarterback run driven. So finding ways to still run double G and trap and mesh and things like that, but making it work for your guy. So maybe you are sprinting out to choice, or maybe it's Q double G as opposed to getting a guy back there in sidecar. So we have a menu, but we've kind of built it to where there's only certain things we're going to run versus certain looks. So we're going to fit the guys to what we do schematically. And I can get into that here in a little bit, but we're not going to bang our head against the wall by any means.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And, touching back on, shout out to our sponsor, R4. Coach has dabbled in that a little bit. And we were talking a little bit off camera, but he can go into this a little bit more. But he's talked about a main thing, the common language, making sure everybody's on the same page. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. But that's what the R4 taught me as a coach. And I think it's neat to hear that even though Coach doesn't use everything out of the R4, there's still stuff that he's picked up and used from that standpoint. But yeah, Coach, I like the way you're thinking about it. It's like I've always been, we're not going to bang our head against the wall. If they're giving us the pass, we're going to sling it. Like if they're giving us the run, we're going to run it. Like it's like like PJ Cat said it best on one of the previous episodes. Coaches make football complicated. Like it's us who does it. But no, that's a huge
And that's
point.
what balance is. I think balance isn't necessarily 50-50, like run pass. Balance is taking what the defense gives you. Some games we're going to throw it more. Some games we're going to run it more based on what they give us. And that makes a lot of sense. And we run a lot of buck sweep too. And we're here in South Carolina, so we see a lot of Lenora Sellers running some Q buck against Clemson.
Yep.
And but it's some good stuff, man. But talk about packaging a little bit. I think that's talking about being user friendly with your system. I think in the last 6 or 7 years, I've really tried to go through and making it user friendly for coaches and players. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys have made your package user friendly.
So when we talk about pass game, and I'll start there, the biggest thing is when we teach things, we teach it conceptually. So guys don't learn what the L, the R, the X have. They learn about, front side versus back side, and then giving them a picture of what we're trying to attack with certain space. For us, our base look, when we get into empty, your play side 1 has a post, play side 2 has a dig, play side 3 has the under shallow, your backside 2 has the over, your backside 1 has the fade. So that's just our base formation. This is what we call it Delaware. So if we get into double tight with a wing, we still have 2 guys on the outside. Can we still attack the same space? Well, now that guy's moved in, so he changes from the 1 to the 2, and how does that route change for him? And then using R4 and teaching guys what routes to run and how there's different route families, we can get into quads, accomplish the exact same look of Delaware of mesh, but instead of 2 shallows, now we have a whip by 3. Well, by the time he comes out of his break and we line up our feet, he's still attacking the same space. If I took a picture, I wouldn't be able to know what you were in beforehand. So, when you get into formations, can you get to the same picture? And if not, how are we still going to be able to attack the same space? You can't run a bubble from a tight end, but can we run an arrow? Can we run a shoot? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, 100%. Coach, here's a little topic I want to get on, and then we can get back on track. But it's like, you said you teach conceptually play side and backside. So, like, I have a buddy, Hughes, Caleb, talk about him all the time, and he's an air raid guy. And we were talking one day, and we were just talking about how the air raid likes to keep the outside guys on the same side. And we were talking back and forth, and I was like, well, I said, in theory, you think conceptually it's easy, but if they're flopping, then they're going to know either I'm play side or backside. But if they stay, then they have to know, am I play side or am I backside? So it's like, there's really no great way to do it. They still got to learn. They still got to know what to do. It's like, okay, if I'm running Y cross, am I on the front side or am I the backside? Do I got the go or do I got the post curl or the dig or whatever you're going to run? Or so that means if we keep them on that side, or if we flip them, you always got a fade guy. You always got a dig guy. And it's like, there's a trade-off, but really, is there a better way to do it? So, like, how do you kind of do it? Do you keep outside guys? Do you like to flip them? What's your philosophy on that?
So when we line up in our base set, our outside guys are off of the ball. They're both running back style guys, more of like your scat back. Our number 2 receivers, we call it an L and an R. They're the number 2s, but we motion our back so much, they can become the number 1. If we attach, they become a tight end, and we live into a lot of unbalance. So we're going to ask that kid to come in and put his hand in the ground. So we don't flip ours unless we absolutely have to, but we also need you to understand the whole concept. And that involves the run game too, because you talk about running double G, you might be the box player, you might be the hook, you might be the backside scoop. You might have been here and we had to check it to counter, and now you're pulling. So when you can teach things big picture wise, when you talk that pure air raid thing, I'm a believer that you keep those guys on the same side. They learn front side, back side. I think it gives you a little bit more malleability as far as what guys run and what route, because maybe I want Jamie on the post this time. I don't want Dustin. Instead of flipping them, you'll have your tags, but it forces guys to learn it a little bit more. And I think that gets a little bit more buy-in, if you will.
Well, I used to give Hughes crap. I said, well, hey, man, what if 70% of the game's on the left hash? But you want the guy on the right to run the go ball, but you can't throw it to the field. He said, well, I mean,
my best 6-step corner guy is going to run 6-step corner.
Yeah. We're going to burn a stick route to the middle of the field and work our way over there. That's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, and I get it. I get both ways. I think I think the only benefit to that, in my opinion, of not flipping is going fast. I think the trade-off is you may be a little bit less adaptable to your athletes, but if you can go faster by not flipping your players, and if it's 5-6 seconds and that's worth it to you, and you might get 6 more plays a game, great. I think go for it. But other than that, we talked to Boggs last week. He talked about flipping his line, quick side,
strong side.
That's kind of wild, man. I didn't think about that, but really, does it does it really matter? You're going to run counter back to the weak side, and you're going to run, power to the strong side. So does it really matter? There's no real tendencies in my opinion, but that's kind of something to think about too. They flip those guys. So maybe it's worth doing, but
Yeah,
That's
it's
that
pretty
old school,
crazy.
man. I think it was a 2011 maybe. Malzahn only ran power to the right and only ran counter to the left, and did it in SEC school. So I mean,
It's
it can
crazy,
work.
man.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
man,
Hey,
we
if you
would.
got Cam Newton, it doesn't matter.
Well, it was
yes,
like
yeah. There's the outlier.
I remember coming up at York early coaching, and like I would just listen to the defensive guys, and they're like, man, they run inside zone to the left 13 times and inside zone to the right twice. We gotta work it to the left. And I'm thinking as an offensive coach, and I'm young, so I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, guys, what if it just was working that game, or that just happened to be the way they called it? Like, there's no really like we got to run it left behind. It's like, well,
Yeah.
then versus us, they run it to the right 9 times, and I'm like, oh. You know what I mean?
So how much empty are you guys running? Are you guys, you said you're an empty wing T. Is that, so I imagine you got your single wing back there and no running back, you're motioning the running back out. How much of that stuff are you guys running, like maybe percentage wise of total formation stuff?
So the last couple of years, because the kid we had, was a great thrower. He was a willing runner, but we were probably only empty, I'd say 40% of the time. With the kid we have now, and athletes like him in the past, we'll live upwards of 60 to 70%. So like our base set, we really base out of 6 formations. You've got 2x2, and you have a wing on the call side. You can bring him into a sniffer. You can go tight end wing to a side. You can go tight end wing opposite. You can go quads, and then you can make an unbalanced call to anything you want. So we're going to try to create the looks you want. So when you talk about getting into empty, I think a lot of guys think space, and they think, okay, the space between a safety and a corner, the corner to the receiver, the apex of the corner. They look at this huge space. We're always trying to mess with the force player. There's nothing we won't do. We're at a big enough school now. We've got enough athletes where we can kind of move personnel as we want, which is huge. But we're not above doing anything to create some space. And that's something Matt's really taught me. I was a guy, having played quarterback, when I thought space, let me get into trips. What do they do on the backside with the safety? How am I playing this? Well, now I look at space in a way of, okay, what are they doing with the end? What are they doing with the star, with the force? And that's that wing T mindset of, we're going to run this, then we're going to run this, then you're going to run this, and then you're going to run this. And having kind of built-in answers with some of the stuff that you do. So, empty, I could see us being upwards of 60% this year. We're going to motion still probably 40% of the time. It might be jet and then cross back. It might be orbit, it might be wrap. You can hop your H back and forth. So we're going to change the picture somehow a couple times.
Sounds like a lot of versatility, and
Absolutely.
that's why we were so excited to have you on, Coach. There's just so much versatility with pre-snap movement, but also post-snap movement. And like you said, you have your system that you go, like, we're going to hit this, this, and this. And then that's going to shape the picture of, okay, well, this is exactly what we thought, or, hey, guys, they're playing it exactly opposite of what we thought. So we have this, this, and this. And just the versatility, it's got to be huge in this BearRaid system that y'all run, and the fact that 1 year 40% empty, you're possibly going to be 60%. Just man, I'm excited to dive more into this a little bit later. How would you say that you like to try to teach your package? Like what's the base way you want to teach it when you come in? Like what are your, I guess, day one install? How do you try to teach your package, and what do you want you're going to hang your hat on?
Yeah, so we've been really lucky here. This will be my 3rd year, and Matt's 4th, and the retention here has been unbelievable. We've got 2 middle schools that feed in. They do a really good job running our system. So our guys, have their feet pretty wet by the time we get to them. We're going to run double G. How we get to it is one thing, whether it's a back end pistol or sidecar, but making sure you're teaching the box and making sure the box is really good. The back can be, sidecar, we can run it across. He can be a pistol, we can run it as stretch. He can be same side, and you can run it as toss. It could be the cube, but making sure the box is as consistent as we're going to be. So we're going to come out. We're going to make sure that stick, slot rail. So kind of like what you see with the speed out by 2 or the speed out by 1, the shock concept. If you're an LSU guy, the old shock. We're going to get into our post stuff. We're going to have play actions off of every single run, and we're going to make sure we hit that in spring ball. So we don't get pads here. You get, I think it's 6 weeks. We end up only taking 3 weeks. We do about 6 of them, and it's basically 7 on 7. But by the time you get through that, if you spend half the time working formations and alignments, and your other half is truly in pass game, you get a little good on good with the defense. All of a sudden, by the time you get to pads, pass game and formations are done. The O-line's gone through enough with protections and everything. And that's the big question is, what are you going to do when you get to empty? How are you going to protect? But they've gotten through that. So we get to really focus on run with pads, just because, let's be honest, if you're not, you can still get work in, but it's not the work you really are hanging your hat on. Just making sure if things aren't right, you go back, trying to do the air raid thing of, I think we're about a 5-day install, not the 3, but if something's not clear, teach it off the film, but mark it and then reinstall it. And maybe you're going to emphasize counter out of order the second time through. That's okay. That's what it's for.
Yeah, you talked to us a little bit about the pass game out of it. I mean, is it pretty traditional pass game stuff? Or are you more play action off the run, or do you have a blend of both?
A little bit of both. We filed it down now. We're going to carry 3 quicks. So we're going to carry spacing, an access throw and then stick. We're going to carry smash, shock, mesh. And then we get into a play action. We're going to have a basically, it looks kind of like Mills, but we're going to have that off of jet. We're going to teach waggle and, a false pull off of double G. But for the routes, it's the exact same. It gets into a 3-layered flood. And then with the Q we have this year, we're getting into some dash, which is good. We've actually kind of stepped away from deep choice. We're doing more dash just because it fits him a little bit better. And then, it sounds silly. You almost got to be able to not be bored with the simple, because that's how you can get into formations. That's how you're going to motion guys and motion shift trade. And as a guy who used to do tempo, I love tempo. I think it has its place, but 80 miles an hour on the on-ramp seems really fast, but if you're going 80 on the highway, it doesn't seem that fast. So if you could change the picture a whole bunch, I think there's probably a little bit more validity in that than not. So
It seems like you're doing less to be efficient, but then the emphasis is on the picture, then changing that picture for the defense coordinator.
100%. And if you're teaching the progressions the same way, we're going to start with everything as a rhythm progression. But we've gotten to where, hey, when we run Delaware, we can run a rhythm progression here, or third and medium, they're a high blitz team. Let's run a rush progression. So it's, under dig over as opposed to post dig shallow. And that's where being able to change that. If you're only going to carry a few concepts, you got to kind of dial them up a couple different ways, and getting guys' eyes in the right spots to do that formationally is huge.
Yeah, and Coach, being a defensive guy for a little while, picture is tougher than plays. I would say we don't go over every play that we see on film. We don't. We have base reads, keys, and our base mode stuff. How we're going to play certain things, like how are we going to, for example, on defensive line, how are we going to defeat double teams and solo blocks? How are we going to handle down blocks? How are we going to handle pulls? That's the main thing we have to do to fit the run. And as long as we do what our key is and we react the way we need to react, we have a chance no matter what play you're running. And so that's why plays don't bother defensive guys. Me personally, it's the picture, the formation, the space, the movement. What are you doing? Because being an offensive guy, I want to be sound every single play. And what keeps me up at night is being out of position one time. Like, I can't stand that on the defense side of the ball. So I think that's what you're saying your offense is all about. Less plays, more pictures, and that's probably why you are so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, when you talk run game, it's all about trying to create the angles that you can get. And it goes back to some of the personnel. We've got an FCS tight end, and then we have a Memphis commit at the other side. So, those guys, you can get into some attached stuff, and it makes life tough. But, we're not going to run power out of just a sniffer look and just saying, hey, win on that 4. He's a 4 for a reason. When you draw the X's and O's, we always win. But, if you're going to be an odd front, our mindset is, if you're odd, we're going to attach or get into unbalance. We're going to make you decide, you want to bump to an even, or you're going to stay in odd. Because if you're going to stay in odd, we got plenty of answers to that. But if you want to bump, then we can play our games. And if you want to be an even front, we have to see too high because of what we've been able to do in the vertical stuff. We're going to be able to run weak, and then kind of working from that basis alone is huge for us.
Yeah, so when you guys go into game planning, and you're thinking about formations, what is the guiding thought process of, like, we're going to choose these formations, we're going to choose these shift motions? What goes into that process?
So here we're in a conference. We don't have districts or regions. We have conferences first and foremost, and we have a conference pool. So we've been here for 4 years. We've gotten 4 years worth of tape on guys, and nobody's really changed DCs yet. So we've built a little bit of a library. We're going to go through and we're going to see what everybody else is doing. What's your base? Are you an odd or an even? Is there somebody we need to be aware of? But really, we want to find the best formations to run to get our best look to create problems for your front side end and for your force. And where we can create those angles. And then from there, what can we do? If we get into attached, if you automatically do this, that kind of gives us an answer. But if, this week you guys did this and this week you did that, okay, is it player based or is it because you all couldn't make your mind up? We all, everybody's seen the team that sees an air raid team and the next week they see a bone team. You're like, cool, it's going to be a week about just players. But we're trying to dictate the front side and see what we can do in the run game. And everything's predicated off that. You can get your shots off of that. I think not getting too crazy in the pass game. Something Matt's have helped me do in the last couple of years. We're only going to carry 4 screens into a game, and they're going to be out of 4 very specific looks because I used to be a guy that's like, well, shit, I can screen anything. Like I'll draw up some million things, and then kids are looking at me with their hands up, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't get it? So making sure you've got really specific answers. We're going to run this, and it's like, what if that guy goes from a 6 to a 4? Okay, we're automatically going to do this. Now we have to formation it to account for this guy or that, but already kind of having your built-in what if helps. And that's that wing team mindset of if you take one thing, something else is there.
And I think what I've learned of being around some great coaches are the best coaches I've been around. They understand their weaknesses and understand their adjustments. They know their rhythm stuff, but they know where they're weak and what their read adjustment is in our 4 terms. And I think that I've always saw that on defense, but the older I get, the longer I've been in the game, I think it's just as true, if not more true, for offensive guys. Like, understand what we're trying to do. And like you said, when you get this technique, but they shift into this, what's our next move? Maybe it's not sitting in a coach's room for 7 hours on a Sunday trying to come up with the best plays. It's okay, guys, what are we anticipating? And if they do that, we're fine. If they do this, here's what we need to do. And man, it just, I want to get on the board and some film and watch what y'all do, because man, the way you're talking about it is just like, it seems like some really good stuff. Very versatile.
Yeah. And I mean, the R4 too, like just talking about like the game planning piece, Dub talks about flows of plays. And I really didn't understand that as an air raid guy early on. And now that I've been doing like the Malzahn kind of run game thing, it's basically single wing, is there's an answer built in. So you have like that rhythm play, then you have the adjustment for the defensive adjustment, then you have something for the blitz, and then you have that release phase it's a shot off of that rhythm play. And it seems like you guys have that all kind of built in. And before we get into game playing and in-season adjustments, we do want to talk about our 2 sponsors. One, Tsunami Bar. Shout out to those guys. Tsunami Bar does a tremendous job providing athletes and really coaches with probably the most top tier innovative equipment right now in the game. You can use them for all different types of athletes. We actually had our guys using those in Block Zero. Block Zero is, for us, our younger athletes are able to lift all of our lifts, but we're not going to put them on a straight bar. One, because we don't want to put them under any kind of load that could have any kind of impingements on joints. If you guys are interested in any of that equipment, please reach out to Chad Smith. You can see their information in the show notes.
Yeah, and I think, with this episode, talking with Coach about so much versatility within their system, I think that's what resonates with me with Tsunami Bar, just the versatility for everything. It works for warm-ups, for your absolute strength tier, for your speed tier, for your volume tier. You can use it across all levels. Like you touched on, Jamie, you can use it with 9th graders and up, or you can even implement them in middle school. And I think they're just very versatile. And then also shout out to our sponsor, Team Builder, the #1 software for strength conditioning coaches. And when you talk about versatile, I mean, I think that's the whole theme for this episode. I mean, they are just so versatile in all the things you can do within the system. Rachel Newman's a great contact for that. We have a free 30-day trial with the with the promo code CoachSpeak. And I think it's just a great system, and it shows a lot of gains in our weight room beyond just numbers.
All right, guys, going into segment 2, talking about game planning with Coach Harrell. So, Coach, when you're running that many formations, scouting can kind of really become a chess match. What does your weekly game planning process look like?
So we've tried to start doing more with less with our huddle columns. So I think there's 8 guys on the offensive staff. So it's one of those perks of being at a big school. And what we'll have guys do is I handle, huddle assist. We send it off for huddle assist, and then I go through and I correct it because you all know how that goes. But what we'll do is we'll have a guy break down formation families, play families, and all that. So that way I can go through and I can see how they're lining up to all these 2x2s or 3x1s or what we call trays or empties and things like that. Just because we do get pretty wordy, it's going to happen when you move guys around. And we're going to line up those 6 base formations, Gus, Tiger, Ace, Spread, Strong, and Quads. and we're going to start there and see how they align, and then go off of film and see what happens when a back comes to the backfield. Are they an odd front team that gives us really a 3-man box, 4-man box, and all of a sudden you bring a back there, and it's like, okay, well, that guy walks down to a 9, or do they roll the 1 high, and just kind of starting to find some base tendencies there. It's a lot of what Dub has taught, but unfortunately, I need to truly sit down and dive into that. I would love to go through his coordinator class. That's probably going to be on the wish list for Christmas next year if I have some time over Christmas break. But we're kind of doing the same thing. We're going to find 3 or 4 runs and quicks and play actions we like out of certain things, and then going through and something I started doing a few years ago is making sure you're also keeping track of things you don't like. So on the call sheet up in the top right-hand corner, I'm going to have a do not call, which means we haven't practiced it all week. So team comes out in cover 2 and we haven't worked on smash at all that week. It might be the right answer, but if we haven't repped it, I can't call it. It's not fair to the kids, and I'm setting them up. So making sure hey, out of spread this week, you love double G. We love going trap with the H motion. You cannot call Ohio. Don't call it. Don't mess with it. It's just not a good look. So finding the things you like, and then finding out what moves guys. Is it the tight end that moves them? Do they only move to unbalance? And then kind of going from there with what you do and don't like.
Yeah, and I think from an offensive standpoint, Coach, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I've always been a guy where, for example, if we're seeing an odd front, the number one thing me and Jamie always talk about is let's put a tight end in the core, let's put them on the ball. How do you adjust? Because you may be an odd front from a technique standpoint, but are you truly 2-gapping or not? And when we put that tight end on the ball, do you become even spacing? Are you a 4-man front, and are you 1-gapping it? Because if you are, then we just got you in what we want you to be in. You might be in a slightly different technique than a true over or under front, but essentially your fit is the exact same. Now, you're going to make it tougher with blocks, different angles, one-on-one blocks. You're going to make things tougher. But I think even just looking at a defensive standpoint, okay, they're a 4-3 apex defense. They got a Mike backer over the ball and the apex, both guys. How do you handle unbalanced, so trips formations? Because if you stay 4-3 apex, you're done. You don't have a shot. So it's like just trying to stay ahead and, being on the defense side of the ball, I'm trying to find out things that resonate like that when we look at offenses. Who are they when they're in this formation? And so I'm right there with you on that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with formations too is just making sure that we're eliminating as many variables. I like the fact that you guys have a motion and a shift with a lot of your things and we really need to do more of that. I think the more that we do that, the less variability we're going to get on the other side of the ball. Like Coach Martin's saying, it's like, how many ways are they going to really fit the run when you're shifting and motioning, and how many coverages are they going to run? So for me, I think that's a big part of what we would need to do this season. But yeah, I mean, I think going into the season, has there been a time, last 4 years you've been there, have you had to adjust like in season, like when you say, okay, we're going to be really good at this particular thing? Has there been a time where you had to make an adjustment? And if so, what was that?
So, I mean, sounds kind of silly, but personnel, last year going into what was our district championship game, so week 11, we had thrown for 3,000 yards and we're getting a lot of guys touches, but all of a sudden I got a senior starting running or receiver who's hurt. I got another guy who's banged up. And again, we're lucky to be at a big school, but we see a team that's a 3-high team. And for us, we're going to treat 3-high just like we do odd. We're going to attach. We're going to get heavy. We're going to force you to figure out, is that dude that's your middle safety, or do you want to come down and play a little bit? And all of a sudden, I think we went 10 of 14 that night for maybe 180. But we got into some unbalanced tight stuff and some unbalanced double tight stuff where you've got a 5-man surface to one side of the center and slowing the game way down and kind of doing what you have to do. And that's why if you've got rules-based with your run game, we're not saying you, me. It's double G. Well, we're running power. Well, here's what we do versus an odd. Well, coach, they're misaligned. You have a rule. We have a combo in place. Like if they're not going to align, let's not make it force us to panic, if that makes sense. So injuries more than anything. And then I think, we had a couple of years ago where we had a concept we loved all summer. We had a 4-strong concept that I think I got from the passing lab. Loved it. It was great to us, but just couldn't get it done, even against some teams we should have been really going to town on and just had to shelf it. And sometimes you got to swallow your pride and be like, man, when it clicks, it's real hot, but you're 1 of 5 for it in 2 weeks. You probably need to quit calling it. So that one was hard. I fought for it every Wednesday, and then, we just had to put her to bed. So
I've been there, man. We've done that a lot. I've said this before on here. Like sometimes I like play action pass, and I think the play action boots have been better, but the in the pocket, like seal protection is so much harder for us. And I think it's because high school players and coaches, like, it's just not the same game that you see on Saturdays and Sundays. It's like you're not getting all those guys fitted up and everybody's running to the ball. It's like, these are high school kids, man. Like, like they're not really getting a great run read, or maybe we're not play faking it, but really well. And I don't see a lot of teams doing in the pocket play action like they do on Sundays and Saturdays. But and every year we're going to put it in. We'll see how it goes this year, but it's kind of the same way, man.
I think a big part is the big boys give it away so much quicker at the high school level. Like that's a huge part. Because I mean, in our defense at times, even if you're out the box, we're still reading the guard or the tackle because they're going to tell you what it is. Now, if high school offenses start getting good at draws again, you may be in trouble.
Man.
But
sprint draw, yeah.
But it's like, because they're going to give you that hi hat like it's pass, and then they're going to engage, and then your backers are probably at 8 to 10 yards at that point. But that's a big thing. I think the big boys give it away so fast. I think that's really what it is, and that's why if you're not getting out of the pocket on those play actions, I think there's going to be a 3 technique right in your lap. Like just being honest.
No doubt, man. All right, Coach. So talk to us about self-scout, man. So you guys, throughout the season, how do you self-scout? What kind of tendencies are you okay having with? Talk to us about your process on that.
So every week we'll run we run the report on huddle that kind of tells us what we're doing percentage wise. And then we're going to keep a accumulation the entire time, a playlist. We'll just add that week's game to. So week 3, it's got all 3 games on there. And I kind of like you guys, I don't really worry about being 50-50 in certain stuff. I wonder how much diversity you can get within the percentage. So, when we get into unbalanced and we've got 2 receivers and a back and pistol and a sniffer, and we're in unbalanced, we might be 70% run, but are we 20% power? Are we 15% power read? Are we Q counter? Like, if you can be multiple within that, I don't really worry about it being 50-50. I really think it's okay. And I think, I don't know how it is for you guys, but you got to kind of set some stuff up. There's some teams, you get up on them and you get to the late in the 3rd and 4th. We're like, I know this isn't a great call, but we're kind of setting some tendencies up a little bit. And you got to make sure you're doing that for down the road when people get film of you. So
it's like flicking the jab. It's flicking the jab, right?
That's all it is. Yeah, just
setting up the overhand.
That's all it is. But just making sure that we're looking, as long as something's not too extreme where it's like, hey, we're 80% run and you're 80% this run. If we get to something like that, it's like, okay, we probably need to look at it. But then a little bit of me is like, well, shoot, man, like we're still averaging 9 yards of carry on. I mean, do we really need to be all that worried about it?
That's a great tendency. Hey, man, tendencies are good.
Tendencies are first downs right now. So
that's right.
Making sure the efficiency is still happening within that tendency, to be honest with you.
I like that. I like the variability within that, like, formation or within that picture. It doesn't have to be pass to run. It could be run type. It could be all that. I love the variability piece.
So Coach, I kind of got a question that's kind of off of what Jamie just asked. So when my time at Cannon, they were in the NCISAA, and just being, they were a copycat league. So like they would watch film, and whatever the team before did that was successful, that was going to pop up the next week. I've never seen so much orbit motion week after week after week on defense, the thing was, it wasn't working, but I wasn't sure why it was so much pistol orbit. And it would be like, we get 4 films on a team. They don't run pistol. They don't orbit motion. Then when they play us, they did. And I was like, I don't get it. But I guess where I'm going at is, let's say you just played a team that had some dudes on defense and their plan was pretty sound in stopping, which are really good at. How do you take that and apply it to your specific system? Because the team next week is going to say, oh, they did really well with this. Maybe we need to do some kind of version of this. How do you kind of prepare for that once you played a really good opponent that stopped some of your better plays?
So in our conference, we're really lucky. You're going to see, 4-2-5 over. You're going to see stack. You're going to see odd. You're going to see 3 high. I think the biggest thing, kind of from an arrogant standpoint, is like, well, if you're not very good at it, I don't want to spend a lot of time working on it because you're probably not going to be very good at it. I think maybe finding kind of the nut and bolt. Maybe it's not America's blitz that they do, but by gosh, they do get the mic to the A gap, and they actually have a dude that's pretty solid at mic. So finding formations that we can get into or looks that maybe discourage that. Believe it or not, when you're at empty a lot, you kind of draw a line in the sand of you're either going to pressure or you're not. And for a lot of teams, because of what we're doing formations, they don't. You never blitz a veer team. Well, it's kind of hard to blitz an empty gap team just because we can freeze and look with me and all this other stuff. So I think the biggest thing would be kind of figuring out what looks are going to make that really, really hard for them. If we're in our base empty look and Mike's coming A gap and it's like, okay, this could be a problem. Well, how are they going to handle quads? Because now that guy can't be a true zero Mike. He has to bump over. If he is, we've got quick screen snag, all day long, or snag escort all day long. And it's like, well, if he does adjust, do they still have the blitz on? Well, if they do, we've got mesh, or if they don't, we've got Q trap, and realizing that we can kind of dictate where you stand. As silly as it sounds, like we're going to make you move at some point.
Sure.
So,
The formation always should dictate what the defense has to do, whether you add gaps or you decrease gaps, you increase flat spaces on one side. And we learned that with the R4 stuff too. It's like, man, like you really set the tone offensively through your formation, and then you kind of dictate what the defense wants to do. And then from there you can attack the open space, man. But no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it sounds like, Coach, what you're getting to is, if you play a team and the personnel's really good with the mic, you're just hoping the next week that the mic just isn't that guy, because it comes down to players. It really does. If you, like, we played a team one time who could play drop 8 like Stubby and only have 5 in the box, and we could not run the ball because of the studs in the box. And it's like, there's no place for that. Like there's no formations. There's nothing you can do.
When
no
you
matter
get
how
into
many
those,
gaps.
when you get into those, I think it kind of becomes the game within the game. Can we look as much as can we freeze and look with me as much as we can? Can we double motion? Can you sugar huddle? It's something we started dabbling into more last year, but can we start to do some of those things and try to hide it? And we've all been there 2 drives into a game, and you're like, this one's fixing to be over by 8:45. Like, it's going to be a tough one. So trying to play the game within the game a little bit and give yourself that advantage. I mean, there's nothing worse than there's a dude and everybody, including him, knows he's a dude, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. It's tough.
Do you ever watch? Do you ever watch like scout films where, let's say, for example, like Jamie, he runs H back buck sweep. Are you able to take a game of that style offense and then apply it? Oh, they had successful in 11 personnel buck sweep here. We're going to run buck sweep these different ways because it was so successful in their one set. We're going to try to run it 2 or 3 different ways because they struggle stopping that scheme. Is that kind of how you do it?
100%. And I think the way, when you talk pass game, you're usually using accelerators. You're grading guys on their cushion, their collision. You give them plus, minus, and that's pretty universal. But even with schemes, like, we don't run veer, but they're still, technically it's still a down block. You still got a down and a climb. So you're still looking at, how does this player take on a double team? How's this guy handle being reached? How does this star handle any type of outbreaking routes? So even if the scheme is way off, or you see a team that throws it, there's a school here called Camdenton. They're going to throw it 65 times, and they're going to run 8 concepts. We really don't carry a lot of crossover, but I can see how well they take on blocks in space when they run bubble. I can see how well teams react to the high hat of a tackle when they kick step the tackles and they run tunnel. So you can still take how they're handling certain pieces of the scheme from other teams. So absolutely.
That absolutely makes sense. And I think it's any good game plan will have that in. You can try to kind of overlay what you've seen on film and apply it to your game plan for sure. But yeah, man. Coach Martin, you ready to move on to the
Yeah. I was
last
just going to say, man, Alex, I don't know if Jamie's had a chance, but I watched all of Dub's new film mastery toolkit. He made these newest 13 modules, I think. And
awesome.
he's got those cards now that make it so much easier to grade. And I was sitting there the other day kind of going through it, and like, even though I've watched every minute of all the R4 modules, just still listening to the new stuff he released, I said, man, this dude, there's a nugget every single time, something that he brings up. And then, our buddy Spencer's out there and at Union with him. And like, I called Spencer. I was like, hey man, so be real with me. What's it like being in the R4, not trying to implement it, but like, he said, man, even as much as that we've done in the past, it's not even close. Like he said, it's crazy having a guy like Dub on staff.
I think we all have plays we like, or we've stolen from a guy we saw on TV. We're all great thieves, right? But the thing that he's been able to do, I guess, going on the last 20 years, is he's taught you the process of how to do it. And unless you sat next to that online guy who had the New Balances on and a dip in, and he's telling you how to do it, like, you're kind of learning as you go. And it might work for Jamie, but it doesn't work for Dustin, or it doesn't work here. It might here. And he's kind of created this level playing field of, like, this is how it's supposed to work. And I mean, I am waiting for the day for that guy to be in college somewhere and there's a whole army of
No
us that are like,
doubt.
that's our guy, and he's just killing it, man.
Hey,
He
take us
is.
with you. Take us.
Yeah,
please.
I'll be the water boy coach. Like I just
Yeah,
want to be
absolutely.
on
there.
the clipboard. But no, man,
Absolutely.
you're right. I mean, it's we just had our offensive staff meeting and talking about game planning for the first time. It's our first year at the school, and so it's our first time as a staff going through what everybody's responsible for. And no one was familiar with that process. But what it does is it allows everybody to have input. It gives a lot of people an opportunity to add value to the game plan, to pour into what we're going to be doing on Fridays and what we're going to be doing in practice. And I think it's a streamlined system, man. And we've been doing it. And shout out to that R4. What is it? The Mastery Toolkit. It's a funny name. Yeah,
it is, but
Mastery Toolkit.
It's good.
Yeah,
So, Coach, we have a coach on staff. I got to give him a shout out. He listens, Coach Eric Park, and man, he's becoming one of my favorite coaches on staff. And
awesome.
he's gotten so comfortable lately that he busts Jamie's chops on the regular, and I love it. It is so
like
funny.
Coach Chad, he just gets me every time.
He gets him. So we were sitting there the other day, and he's like, "Coach, Bolton's going to take us through accelerator grading today. I'm pretty excited." So I threw something on the board just to show him how to grade like a double team or whatnot, and he said, "So what you're telling me is you don't even have to know football to be able to use this system." I said, "Yes, Coach." He said, "This is going to be great." And he knows tons of football, but he's right. Like we could literally teach our wives that stuff and they could do it for you. Like that's just the way it is. But no, man, shout out Coach Park. If you're listening, we appreciate you, man.
No doubt.
Hey, man,
Coach, I'd love you to tell my wife that. That'd be huge. Grading film.
No doubt.
Film,
Chart this fix huddle assist for me, please.
Well, then
you got third downs tonight.
Yeah, why are we doing the up the middles? I heard my wife say that one time. Why are we keep doing the up the middles? Like, well, sweetie, when we graded out the accelerators, the three technique had a negative penetration grade. All right, but no, all right. So let's get to rapid fire, Coach. And I know you like Buck Sweep. Outside of Buck Sweep, what is your favorite play in the BearRaid playbook?
Let's go pass and run. Pass and run.
Okay. Okay. So when we get into unbalanced and we go Q trap, and our rules, we're going to trap the first thing outside the guard, obviously, but we don't trap threes. We're going to trap probably a 4-eye in that. And the mic's getting hit in the mouth. You're swimming to Sam and the wheel's accounted for. The H is arcing away. It's not under center trap, but it's pre-sex. It's awesome. And then, golly, so we'll get into quads and we'll go quads, and that single receiver will bring as a tight end, and you're going to run mesh with him and the number 4, and number 3 is on your dig, number 2 is on a wheel, and 1's on a post, and you can go high to low, you can go under, dig, over, you could technically go shallow dig to wheel, but I mean it's got every answer in the book. And then truly, if it gets real bad, it's quads, and a Q taking off is never a bad thing.
No doubt, man.
Always good.
All right, Bolton, what you got? Let's hear yours, man. I may know this or heard it before,
man,
but
I don't know.
give us a favorite play, man.
All right, run. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with. I like inside zone, man. I like all the variations of inside zone out of like a single wing look. So like the H back, he can kick the weekend, he can seal, he can arc, and we can read it. We can do RPOs. I think that's the most variable. Or the run play in our system that has the most variation to it. We can do a first level, zone read. We can do a second level RPO. We got all the play actions off of that, whether it be a boot or inside. I think that's a good one for us. In the pass game, some sort of vertical switch. I've been really on the vertical switch stuff, just like everybody. It's just so hard to
beats every coverage if you don't play it right.
It does. I mean, it's good against 1 high. It's good against 2 high. I do like putting it to the field and putting a slash to the boundary. So like the basically just a quick smash to the boundary and then going vertical switch back to the field has probably been our best thing that we've done. So those two for sure.
So when they switch, the guy that becomes the new number 2, if it's too high, is he going to go ahead and bend it, snap it off the post?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then we run the running back like on like a little, token fake, little mini play fake just to hold the mic. And if the mic bells underneath it, then we'll check it down to him. It's good if you got time. I mean, it takes a little bit of time.
Still.
I'd say run play. I'm gonna be very specific here. I'm gonna go tight end wing, twins opposite. We're gonna put the running back to the tight end wing. We're gonna run guard tackle counter to the twins. We're gonna read the end. The end bends and chase. We're gonna toss it out there. He's got 2 lead blockers. If the end sits, quarterback's gonna keep it. and then we're going to read the overhang. Is he going to play the bubble by the number 2, or is he going to play the quarterback on the runs? Kind of.
Oddly specific run play there.
That's gnarly.
That's it, man. I don't know. And then pass play. I mean, shoot, all of them work if you teach the timing right. In theory,
13 personnel.
I will
Chunk
say
it deep.
I will say, Coach, if you're talking stick concepts, I like shock the best, because if they do go 3 over 3 and try to take the stick away, you got your matchup with the slot fade by 2. I do like that a lot more than just your traditional. But one thing that's tough, if a lot of teams on defense leave that space over 3. So, like, if you have the variation where you can go like stick switch and have 2 run kind of press inside and sit down, that causes it a little bit more, especially if you're seeing like a stubby look and they don't apex properly, you're seeing a lot of void over 3. So we'll go stick out of 2 by 2 or 3 by 1 is what I'd say. Any version of that.
Love it. Sweet. All right. Well, Coach Martin, you got the next one, buddy.
All right, Coach. So what would you say is like one of your favorite like coach book resources? Like what just kind of resonated with you? What book did you read and it was just like you pulled the most from it that you use daily?
So I've got a couple books by Bobby Peters. He'll do those breakdowns of, he did the 49ers offense a couple years ago, did the Rams. I'm going through the Commanders one now, and he takes a lot of time, puts a lot of detail in, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cheesy, but it's cool to see us high school guys. We're running the same stuff that pros are. Obviously not at the same level, but it's kind of cool to see Hank and Smash and all that. Those are great. Somewhere I've got a digital copy of Winning Edge, the Bill Walsh book, somewhere on here. I need to find it. And then, both of those are easy ones. You can just go through at any time and just pick up any time of the year and just dive right in. You'll be all right. So.
Yeah, I've never bought one of the Bobby Peters books, but I see them all the time, and I see coaches referencing them and like taking screenshots and whatnot. But need to get my hands on one of those. Yeah, I remember. I can't remember what year it was. Kansas City was in the Super Bowl, and like the first 3 plays they ran was like plays that we ran that season. It was like 4 strong snag. It was something to the weak side boundary run, and I'm like, man, like Andy Reid's calling the same thing that,
dude,
that,
you know
that
what's
everybody's
funny
calling.
Though is like they'll run like mirrored snag, and you're like, oh wow, we got mirrored snag called at like the NFL level. It's just kind of strange stuff that like I guess those guys continue to do, and it's been very successful for them. I think a lot of the stuff too that I've seen is almost it's very simple, but I think it's also built on way more time to watch film. So like they have a different key. Like they have more time to like read the keys of the defense. So you might say, okay, well, like mirrored smash, hot topic, I don't like it. But like in the NFL, you could see it working because they may have a different tell that we might not have in the few hours that we have that week to really dial in. So they might not have a backside tag to that. They may not have time because they have Jadeveon Clowney running down their throat. Like it's just different. It's just different to see that. But yeah, NFL guys, it's interesting to see they run the same stuff.
Have y'all watched the new quarterback series yet? The new one that released. I just finished it tonight, but it's funny because like Kirk threw a interception and he comes to the sideline and the way he's talking is such if-then statement. It's like, man, I thought it was going to be cover 2, but he did this and he played it this way. And it was kind of like he was going off pre-snap and that's why he threw a pick. And I was just like, huh. So I would love to just sit in every quarterback room and just kind of hear how they go through it at that level, because, those quarterbacks are just so smart, and really, can they get you in the right check? Can they get you in the right play is really what it comes down to. But I would love to hear like how some of the best read it, are they just, hey, I'm looking for 2 or 3 or 4, like looking for the coverage. But I'd love to hear that from them.
Yeah, for sure. It's a whole different game when there's no chance a receiver's going to outrun your arm. We've all had that kid back there. We're like, man, you better hit it now, because if not, we're going to be late. And it's a whole different deal when the Y crosses at 30 yards and he just rips a dot. Whole different deal.
I would like to, too, is like, how do they develop the concepts? Like, are they, we're so like R4 based. You get the rhythm, the read, the rush, and the release phase. And then, air raid's got like 6 different raids, it seems like. But like, how do they go about that? Is there like a check down every single time? Or are they choosing? I'm sure there's some sort of progression key that they go with, but I'm sure that's what you're talking about too. Like, hey, if it's cover 2, I'm working this particular progression, or if it's cover 3, I'm working this particular progression. But that'd be interesting to see too, just to be a fly on the wall in some of those conversations. I'm sure it gets pretty intense, but All right, Coach. So the next one, so you talked about a lot of formations. What's the most creative one that you can remember? And that could be a formation motion. Think about the most creative one that you guys have used.
So last year we got into, I'm going to have you guys picture this. We're in unbalanced to the right. Okay. So I've got a left guard, a center, a right guard, a right tackle, and then an over tackle. I've got a sniffer. I've got a receiver out to the right. He's on the ball. On the back side, I have a receiver on the ball as my number 2. I have a number 3 that's off the ball and a number 1 that's off the ball. So for us, our base rule, if we go unbalanced, we have to have a guy attached. You got to have a backside tackle. And we were digging around and we were watching some like 2007 Mizzou film where they would get into unbalanced and they were running like unbalanced dart or some weird stuff like that. And it was like, oh my God, like that's just kinky. Who would do that? It's like, I know a guy who might. So we drew it up and it's kind of like, why would you do that? It's like, well, you have to bump, but you're still good. Everybody's still eligible to catch a pass. And it kind of allowed us, like, all of a sudden that backside 2, if he's going to be a 2, we can motion the H over. And with our double G rules, we have the box accounted for. We can still run Q double G to the other side. If that guy's a super tight 2I, we can block back and we have power to the front side. You also have a 3-man stick. You still have a 2-man concept over here. So we call it naked. Naked was a good one for us. And then in the district play championship game, we got into unbalanced and we had guard, tackle, tight end, wing, and then we put 2 receivers out there. And then the Q was back there by himself. And they had, I want to say they had a 2I, a 5, a 9, and like what would be an 11. And then we brought the T back in motion and we stuck a toe, we ran trap, we ran power and just, there was gaps on
You
gaps.
got 11 techniques out there. We got a lot of gaps to one side.
I can't see him in the tight. Like, I mean, it's like, guys, I swear he's out there. I just can't see him on the iPad.
He's an 11
So,
or 12.
He's an 11. He's an 11. Yeah.
11.
We got guys that can't count that high. It's like, he's out there. Trust me. Just
dude, that's a great formation if you got those out there.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Coach, that's a let's see. That's a 10I. It's not an 11. It's a 10. It's a 10I.
10I, Coach. He's a 10I.
I don't know what Bear would have called that. Bear would have called the timeout.
F gap.
Yeah, the F gap.
All right, Coach. So, hey, man, you're at this clinic out of town. There's coaches everywhere. They walk up to you and they go, "Hey, man, describe your offense in one word." What would you say?
Pliable. Kind of depends on who we are. It's going to look probably different year to year. How we're going to do it, you're still going to see the same stuff, but I think you've got to be pliable to your athletes, to the times, to the weather, to the everything. Got to be pliable.
No, that man. Just listening the way you talk about it, I definitely want to see some cut-ups. One of my favorite things to do is when I meet coaches or we're out, there's a clinic or something, I always love to ask, "Hey, man, what do y'all run?" That's my favorite thing to ask. And just the range of answers you get is just, it's crazy. Because like you'll have guys, "Oh, I run Malzahn system." Or you'll have guys say, "I run the spread." Or you'll have guys say, we run cover 3. It's just, there's just so many variances. And I just love hearing what guys run. Cause it's like, you kind of know what they run based off their answer. And it's like the way you talk about your offense, it's like, it's got to be a nightmare on defense to prepare for.
That'd be a good answer. Be like, "Hey, we get guys to run 11 techniques."
Yeah, great answer.
We don't have tackles. Not a big fan of tackles. Don't believe it.
Yeah, we're just putting backside guards, and that's it. No, that's awesome, man. Well, Coach, man, we before one more, we'll go one more. So, who do you steal from the most? I know we had some, talked about some books, but is there a guy like out there that you got that you or your head coach steal from the most with this offensive system? Like, where did he get his inspiration or your inspiration from?
So his inspiration, he's been doing it about 15 years longer than I have, and his tree is very vast. I steal a lot from him. He's done a great job at letting me do whatever I want, call it how I want, steal from him, or I get a text in second block and let me, y'all do a bell ringer real quick. I need to answer this. But man, if you look at coaches, Gus Malzahn does some great stuff. I think Kiffin with all the verticals and the switch, and then I'm a big Cliff Kingsbury guy, and to have Case Keenum and then to lead the SEC in rushing the next year, and then what they're doing with Jaden Daniels is just wild. So it's just cool, like you said, to see like they're running counter, but it's orbited to triple. And it's like, I know a school that's got 400 kids in it that's doing that same thing here, and it's really cool to see how it trickles up, really. So,
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's the creativity. I think a lot has to happen with the high school and college guys because we have, athletes that we have to be adaptable to, like you're saying, pliable. We have to be able to match what they do well, and or even defenses that we see, man. But coach, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Um, we're off air. We definitely want to maybe get some cut ups and see those crazy formations and what you guys do out of, especially with the buck sweep stuff. So, but yeah, coach, it's been great.
man, I appreciate y'all doing this. This is something cool. I mean, listening to you guys, and Jamie, we got hooked up years ago when you were at York, and you were so kind to give me some time when I was a guy that I couldn't even put York. I knew y'all had cool helmets, but I didn't know where the hell it was on the map. And
Yeah.
just you guys doing this it just makes everybody feel, like we're talking ball. It's just two dudes hanging out on a porch, kicking ideas around. There's no egos, and y'all are big time and don't act like it. It's a blast, man. So thank y'all for what you do for our profession. I mean that.
Dude,
It's a
there's-
pleasure, man.
yeah,
Like
big time.
we take
No,
little things from everybody, like
everybody.
not even little things, just like big things. Like from you today, like I'm taking like just try to formation people to death. Like don't be afraid to step out of like my comfort zone of we're gonna have these specific formations. Like I need to be more creative, change the picture. Like that's gonna help our system, right? That's gonna help our kids find those matchups or help our offense, be harder to prepare for. I mean that's the main thing. I mean thinking about what you guys do, man, like think about going to that game plan. They hate playing you guys because they're like, crap, here we go. We're going to get freaking formation. Like, I don't know if we're that way. I think we're more of a execution based offense, right? Like they got to prepare for us executing our stuff, but they may not have to prepare for a lot of formations. So that's something I'm definitely going to be.
The more untraditional you are, the more success rate I think you have. And it's like, if you have kids who've been seeing one back and H back since middle school, that's all they've seen. Like, and it's like, that's why like me and Caleb, we always get into the argument as he's like, the air raid's the best thing out there. And I'm like, okay, how many times has the air raid beat Nick Saban? And he didn't say anything. And I said, here's my point. Like my point is you can't be one dimensional in football. If you're all you are is one back and that's what you're hanging your hat on, one back and empty, they can run so many things on defense to stop that. But if you have one back and then you can hop into pro and then you can hop into empty and then you can hop into nub and you can hop into these other things, you can't hone in on we're going to run so many defensive things against one back because now we have to prepare for all these different formation families, which carries into what you do. And we're going to change that picture up. You're not going to get just good at 3x1 and 2x2. It's not going to happen. But Coach, I've learned a lot on this and taken a lot. And I'm stuffing in the back of my head of, okay, if we see someone like Coach's offense, we better start having some adjustments for this and that. And like the empty formation with the unbalance. I think that's big, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, Coach, we'll have all your contact information in the show notes. And guys, don't forget, reach out to Coach. I'm sure he'll be glad to talk ball with you. Obviously, we've talked on the phone a lot before. So also Team Builder, 30-day free trial with Team Builder, Pro Quick Draw, also on there. Don't forget those guys, 7-day free trial. Again, shout out to Tsunami Bar Sports. Reach out to Chad Smith, get connected with them. And Team Builder is also a sponsor too. So all that stuff's in the show notes. Guys, we appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Don't forget 10% off with the promo code CoachSpeak on r4footballsystems.com. A lot of great stuff over there. Check out the Film Mastery Toolkit. See y'all.
See you guys.
Thanks for tuning into the CoachSpeak Podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.